So in the last episode, I ended off with the three things we learned. We learned cout, console out. We learned stream out, the stream out symbols. We learned in how to print strings. We learned what a namespace was, and we learned what the include statement does and what header files do, and we learned what functions are. Those are the things we learned in the first episode. These will be talked about literally every episode because we use them every single time we want to use a C++ program. They are constantly used. If you don't understand them now, you'll understand them eventually. I don't know when that will happen. It might be a week ahead of time, but it'll just click to you because you'll hear the terms and see it used so many times. But okay, so now that that's out of the way, in this episode, I am going to be talking about how to print user input. How to print what a user or a human types into their keyboard and how to print that out. So if we run our program right now, we see it says hello there, right? Well, that's cool. What if I want to print hello there, my name? It's really simple to do that. First, we need to actually use a class. We need to call upon a class. We're going to have to use an include statement for this. It's going to be include. We're going to include another class. This class is called string. This is the class of string. We have to import string, right? We have to call upon the class string. Hey, we got to tell the program, hey, we are going to be using string because I need to write a string, right? So I am going to be using C++ modern strings. If you're coming over from C, I know how C type strings work. I will not be going over those in detail. I might stumble upon them if there's a need to, but right now C++ modern strings are what I'm going to be going over for the basics. In the advanced C++, I will be talking about C style strings and other libraries that actually use C style string. Or if you want to be, these are also called libraries. If you guys wanted another one, class, library, you basically, same thing. Um, so you may be thinking, well, if I run my program now, we're not printing what the user puts, right? We can't, every time we try to type something, the console closes. Yes, I know. We're getting into that. So to tell the computer what we want to type, we do something called cin. We're doing console in. Now, when we do console in, this requires two things. It requires the namespace standard, or STD. We call upon it because it's in the namespace, but it needs a object to assign what you're putting into, right? So if we go ahead and just do this, right, and we do the inward facing or stream inward symbols, and we end it, there's an error. It says expected expression. We need to express what we're putting in when the user types, right? So that's where variables come in. Variables are very easy to understand. They're literally places in memory, right? And that sounds daunting. They are literally things in memory or variables, like a, for example. If I did a would be a variable. A is equal to 5. That would mean a is 5. And we could call upon that, right? We need to make new variables. That's literally how programming works. You'd have to make a new variable. You can add variables. You can subtract them. You can multiply them. That's how variables work. It's to make programming easier. Now, we need to put a variable for the user cin, right? We need to stream in to the console. We're doing console in, stream in symbol, and an expression. So, oh man, I'm gonna do a string. It's string input. This doesn't matter. This part right here I'm typing doesn't matter what you call it. This could be like that. It cannot, however, it cannot start with a number and it cannot start with a number, pretty much any number. It can, and special characters. You can't start with those. Um, like $sign and all those other things. Um, so I'm gonna name this just input because we're getting the input. And when you're programming, side note, it's when you're working in professional environments, you want to comment your code. You want to label your variables so they know what you're talking about. Like if I name this, yeah, cool, we have a variable. What does it do? When your program is like hundreds and hundreds or thousands of lines long, and you have a variable named this, they're going to be like, what does that variable do? So it's good to know what functions names, like if we name this WAF, SQ, whatever, we don't know what it does. But this is the main function, we can't change the name. But it's good to name your functions and your variables after what they're doing. So I'm going to call this input because we're getting input. And then I'm going to initialize it with curly brackets. This makes it so the compiler knows that, hey, this is going to be assigned eventually. You could also do equals blank, but I like to do curly brackets because it's just easier. And then we're going to do input. And now we have input. Now if you run the program, we notice the program doesn't do anything. You're like, well, what is it? Well, we have to enter something. So now the computer is getting what we typed. So what if we want to print out what we typed? Well, you remember how we did hello world? What if I want to do hello there, remove the inline statement, /n, makes a new line, by the way. Or you could just do this end line with more of the stream out brackets. But I'll talk about that. You'll know what I'm talking about in a later episode. Well, what if I wanted to print it out? Well, you do stream out things to separate your strings, right? You do this, and you do input. And you have to spell it correctly. And now, if we print hello there, I'm going to do, my name is Sam, I'm just going to do Sam. Hello there, Sam. You see, we could also do James, if your name is James. Hello there, James. You could do hello there, 213, right? Whatever you put, the user will call, and the computer will say, hey there, hello there, whatever you type. And that is how you get user input, right? That's how you get input from the human behind the keyboard. If you have any questions, leave a comment.